Welcome back to Animal Crossing New Horizons. I'm Dear Darling. I shall we see what's going on our lovely island of Fawnhallow today. And I feel like I have to start this episode exactly as this pre-scripted way that my friend was going to predict I was going to start it. Whereas I was like, oh, my throat is a little bit sore today because I've been... I can't remember exactly what he said, but he did a surprisingly good impersonation of my intro to his videos, which is going to be amusing. I'd imagine he's going to be watching us, but... as may many others. But yes, if you watched yesterday's episode, you might know I went to the era store of Taylor Swift's concert, and we'll talk about that in a second. Hello everyone, right now in Fawnhallow, it's 12:25pm on Tuesday, August 20th, 2024. If you don't know, Taylor Swift, very renowned, popular pop artist, is touring, and it's, according to my friend, like one of the... It's either one of or the biggest tour, I think he said. Or something of that ilk. Anyway, it's basically huge, and Taylor Swift, unless you've been living under a rock, is probably the most popular pop artist of our time right now. I'm not sure if that's I'm not sure necessarily. Who other contenders would be, but you'd be crazy to say she's not up there in popularity. Like I think most people know someone who is a Swiftie. If you don't know, that is the fan name, I suppose, for those who like Taylor Swift. Okay, so this is Rowan's. Would I consider myself a Swiftie? I would not consider myself a Swiftie, but I would consider myself someone who does like a decent amount of her songs. Normally her older stuff. It was certainly my sister was someone who really liked Taylor Swift, and so I sort of just like through osmosis, as I like to say, gained some of that knowledge there. And I had some friends and in primary school, and they all really loved Taylor Swift. And I was like, yeah, I like songs, I've got nothing against pop songs or anything like that. I think it's very easy to be cynical about that sort of thing, being like, oh, what's the point of, pop is derivative, etc., etc. I'm not here to have that conversation. At the end of the day, if it gets you dancing, if it gets you grooving, if it gets you feeling in a good mood, then I don't see why that's anything but a good thing. So you can argue the artistic merits, I suppose, of it here and there, but, I suppose the artistic merit and the influence it has on you as a person in motion is different. And, and I think it's... I guess what I'm trying to say is I feel like it's a wrong attitude to take if you come at it with a competitive stance, being like it's, because pop music is derivative or something, it shouldn't, it should be, like, looked down upon, if anything. Which, as I said, I think that's a wrong sort of stance to take, Doesn't have to be your sort of thing, but doesn't mean that you had to sort of, bring other things down with it. Again, I'm sort of constructing a straw man here, which is not necessarily whoever you're watching's opinion of it. So I'm going to assume you're on the same page, where whether you like or dislike pop music, you're just like, yeah, you can appreciate it to a degree. So with Taylor Swift, I don't really know like most of her new songs, but the ones I do know are ones which like my friends will play on the car radio. Or, well, not radio, Spotify via the radio. So, I don't know any of her new album, the Tortured Poets Department, of that sort of thing. But I know it's some of Lover, and I honestly don't remember the others. But anyway, the long and short of it is, I had a great time, to be honest. It's a very theatrical sort of performance. I haven't been to a huge amount of concerts, mind you, because there's not many musical artists where I'm just like, I go crazy for anything. So any musical concerts I go to will tend to be ones where my friends invite me along, being like, hey, do you want to come? And I'm like, sure. I know this artist, or I don't know this artist. I think it's not much a big deal for me. But Taylor Swift's one of the rare ones I do actually know a decent amount. Like, I know, I would say all her title tracks apart from the newest ones. But it was really cool. It was a nice sort of like thematic performance thing. I spoke about it before, about how Taylor Swift has like distinct aesthetics for each of her albums, which I think is a really fun, cool thing. You know me, I love like defined aesthetics, so you can like ascribe a certain like fashion choice or like scene or setting to this album, so you can like imagine exactly how it's going to be displayed. I think that's fun, personally, and I think it's even more cool the fact that fans of Taylor Swift, Swifties, have a thing where they dress up as each of the like as an aesthetic or something when you go. I dressed up as Reputation. If you want to know, I discussed more of it yesterday, but I guess we'll talk about the actual concert itself. So we had standing tickets. We didn't have seated ones. This is, I think, the first time I had standing tickets to a concert. All the other times have been seated. But it's also a bit different because I actually knew no, that's not true. The Blackpink concert, I think, was also technically standing because there were no seats. But this one and the Blackpink one, where two artists where I actually knew a decent amount of the songs for. Oh, Rowan, we need to give you the book. And it was great. I thought it was a really fun time. I love looking at the scenes. I love looking at the crazy amount of like fashion choices, which Taylor Swift and her backup dancers had. Let's not discredit the backup dancers or the backup singers as well. The coordination which goes on must be incredible. Like it was a thing which impressed me almost more than the actual concert itself, is the amount of like the logistical work that must have gone into it to make sure everything happened smoothly. Because I said this to a friend, and I was like, I know it's like, okay, I mean, if you want reviews of the music and like Taylor Swift specific things, I would recommend going to like a Swiftie channel, and they'd probably break it down for you. I'm not about Swiftie channel, so I'm here to talk about efficiency and organization. It really, really impressed me. The most impressive thing, apart from of course Taylor Swift having a very nice voice, was the fact that the quick changes were so quick. Like the transitions between completely different aesthetic eras and scenes and setups was so fast. Like the longest one was, I think my friend said it was like the Reputation one, which was like 5 minutes or something. That's really, really quite quick for everything which has to happen. I was very, very impressed. But yeah, I had a great time with a concert singing songs. I didn't know like half the songs, to be honest, which was actually, there were a lot more songs I didn't know than I expected. Because she sort of like bundled together all the songs which were like really popular. Like, I don't know if I can find the set list. Hold on, let's see. London Era Tour set list, 19th August. Setlist.fm, it's got me. Like the other ones, I knew Cruel Summer, I knew The Man. I knew You Need to Calm Down, and I sort of knew Lover. I didn't know the lyrics to most of these. But I thought it was really fun. Starting off with a bang as well, because The Man had such like an elaborate like setting scenery. Like all the backup dancers was themed to be like office people, where it was like a whole office construction thing, huge dance number. And I was like, yeah, absolutely, I'm digging this. This is exactly my sort of jam. I really appreciate. I was like, this is awesome. And then I was just like, damn, are they gonna have like a full-on set for every single song? I'd be like, that'd be crazy. They didn't do that because that would be crazy. But they had quite a few sets of that sort of thing. And really, one really cool thing actually about being down on the floor, like sort of nearish the stage, is the fact that you can actually kind of see what's going on stage pretty well from where we were. Like I said it before in like previous ones, I couldn't really see what was going on with like the setting or staging, nor like what outfits people were wearing, which wasn't necessarily as much as I focused in some of the previous ones. But in this one, it was a lot better being down there. I was like, I can see what the backup dancers are doing. I can actually see up close what the backup dancers are wearing. I wasn't like super close. I was still like probably like 20 meters from the closest stage or something, but I was still like somewhat close, right? So I very much appreciated that. My friend like thought I would probably appreciate it, and he was absolutely right. Then I went to Fearless, which I didn't know, but then You Belong With Me, and then Love Story, banger after banger. 22, We Are Never Ever Getting Back Together, I Knew Your Trouble. I was just like banger, 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 and I knew all those songs. So I was just like, this is crazy. It's like 5 bangers in a row. And then there's All Too Well, the 10-minute version, which is not super my jam, but I think if you're a big Taylor Swift fan, you'd probably be like in tears at that point, because it's, I think, a very moving part of a concert. I'm not really sure. And then they had the Enchanted, I'd enchanted to meet you, which is a surprisingly short section for how pretty that dress was that she was wearing. Enchanted I kind of knew. I didn't know. Again, a recurring thing with most of these things is I knew the title / like vaguely the song, but I knew none of the lyrics. So only unless it was a really big title, I could sing along. I knew like none of a Reputation, apart from Look What You Made Me Do, which surprised me. And folk more, I think I knew none of these songs. Like I've heard of the titles, but I actually like have only listened to them if my friends put it on the radio. But I think it was probably my favorite sort of like setting, like the aesthetic like set design of it was really cool. They had like this big sort of house, like forest house with like all this moss and like like vines and stuff going around it, and then she had like this really sort of like mossy enchanted like piano, and then like the background staging had this massive tree and that sort of thing. And when she did Willow, a song which I was like, this is pretty nice, but that like it had like this sort of weird like forest cultist, not cult, but like forest magic sort of vibe. Everyone like was in these robes, they had like these glowing orbs doing this like elaborate dance. Some people in the audience had like these balloons which they shone like torches on to make them light up to sort of like mimic the orbs, and I was like, that's pretty cool, that's a cool idea. But there was a lot of like organization things, like when in the queue people were giving out paper hearts to hold up during lava, which I did hold up because I was like, I'm not going to like rain on my parade and be like, no, I'm not going to do this out of principle, because what am I going to do? Spoil the fun for really no apparent reason? So that's pretty cool. Like, it's nice to... I guess what I mean to say is, like, it's nice to see this sort of passion from the fans. I would like to, you know, point out, definitely there are some Swifties which probably take it a little bit too far to a rabid direction, but that's normally people on Twitter, and I wouldn't, you know, use Twitter as a baseline for any sort of reasonable behaviour. If you're a big Swiftie, if you're a big fan, and you just have, like, a passion for it, more power to you, I say. But I basically knew none of these songs, so I was sort of just like vibing out, you know. It was at these moments, which, you know, same thing that I did in the Coldplay concert, whereas like when I didn't know the songs, I like looking around to the people around me and seeing everyone else so like impassioned by it, just be like, wow, this means a lot to these people. And that's cool, not in a bad way. And then 1989 came on, Style came on, and people went crazy when it started happening. I was just like, man, I really like the backup dancers' passion, but I don't know why people are screaming. And then I was just like, hey friend, what's going on? And he was like, oh, it's Style. And I was like, oh, okay, sure, I know that one. But then Style, Blank Space, Shake It Off, Wildest Dreams I didn't really know, but Bad Blood, again, sort of like song after song where I knew them all. And then it was Tortured Poets Department, which I knew only Who's Afraid of Little Old Me. I mean, I didn't know like any of the others ones, but I was like, I like her dress. What can I say? I mean, I didn't know like any of Midnight's apart from Anti-Hero. So basically the entire last part of a thing I didn't know. The surprise songs, had no idea. People went crazy when Long Live / Change came on, and then You're On Your Own Kid came on, and then people went crazy. I don't know if people go crazy for any song which she plays, but whatever. Yeah, honestly, it was just a good time. I mean, Taylor Swift is a very good performer, I would say. She's a very natural performer. She's got a lot of sort of stage charisma. You know, she plays up the stage for theatrics. Do I think that every single concert she's been to, she says, this is my favourite night of all time, this is my favourite city? Yeah, she probably does say that on every single one. Is it actually her favourite? Probably not. Does it matter? No, not really. Like, when you go to a concert, like, I don't think people sit there and be like, wow, I fully believe exactly what you say. You're sort of like, you're there for the pageantry of it. Like the same way you go to like a theatre show and you go like, oh, this person's playing a character. Taylor Swift, she's on stage, of course she's gonna sort of like ham it up. You know, how lame would it be if any performer went on stage and went like, you know what, you're like my 5th favourite city, you know, you're not as good as the other night. And it's just like, no, obviously not. You want to get the crowd hyped, and it does, even if you're using like, even if it's like a false constructed opinion, or even if it's not necessarily 100% the truth. I imagine if you're a performer on that stage every night, is it something which loses its charm? I think it probably loses its luster. I don't think it would lose its charm. I can't imagine going on stage and just being like, wow, this is not an incredible feeling every time you do it, right? Like, that's, I mean, if you don't like that sort of thing, I guess you just wouldn't hold a concert, right? Or, I don't know. Anyway, but the long and short of what I'm trying to say is, I think she's got good stage presence. Is she hamming it up? Probably. Does it matter? Not really. I'm kind of like, be kind of lame if she didn't, right? But yeah, like I really appreciated like the sort of like theatrical performance of it. Like I love the backup dancers were great, you know. They're honestly very enamoring. They were just like, yeah, I was like, they're helping contribute to the story as much as, you know, Taylor Swift singing is all the same. The dancing was great. I love the costumes. I don't know. It just, I guess the greatest thing is being sort of surrounded by a load of people who are all having a great time. So it's like, it makes it so easy to have a good time as well. You know, even if you don't know exactly what's going on, even if you're not exactly sure what's happening, it's cool. Like I was thinking about when we were walking to the actual concert itself, I was just like, wow, you know, so many people here are like in costume. That's incredible. That's awesome. These people are so impassioned about Taylor Swift and the songs that they're willing to represent it aesthetically. Because like I wasn't even going to do it until like my friends brought it up, being like, oh, what's everyone getting dressed up? And I was like, oh, I guess I probably should do it. and Reputation was like the only one I had a conversation with, and you know, I said about it yesterday. I was like, that's the only one I could really do. But just seeing like people just so, I don't know, impassioned about the entire thing was like, yeah, this is cool. This is awesome, you know? Emotional vampire, I am. Well, I guess not vampire, because then that makes it seem like I'm taking away everyone's emotions. That's not what I mean. It's just, I don't know. It was a really fun time. There was the opening acts as well, which was Maisie Peters, which is like the second time we've seen her again in concert. Or third time? I can't remember anymore. And there was Paramore. With Paramore, the only song I know by them was Misery Business. Which again is quite a sort of nostalgic song. I remember listening to it a lot when I was younger. Again, because of my sister, but still. Yeah. It was just like, I don't know, it's just a really cool time, to be honest. I had a blast. The only downside was the fact we were in standing seats and my legs were getting pretty tired. But it was weird. I hit like the 2-hour mark of standing and I was like, this is killing me. And then like 10 minutes later, I was like, no, I got over it. It's like when you go running, I suppose, and you hit the wall and you're like, this is too much. And then eventually I got over the wall and I was like, oh, you know what, this is fine actually. This is dealable. I can deal with it. But yeah, what else can I say about it? I'm trying to think of anything like particularly significant. She also had like the light up wristbands, which were at the Coldplay concert as well, which were kind of cool. I think the Coldplay one was a bit cooler, maybe because the show was a bit later at night. It started, so the light effects were also stronger as well. But there was, I can't remember which song it was. The light effects were very like elaborate. It actually like made shapes in the audience, and I was like, how do they do that? Because I was like, there's no way. I was trying to think logistically, how could they possibly have done that? Because at least in the floor, it makes sense. Anyone was given like just a wristband. So if you were trying to like program a light show, you would just do vague colors. If you want to do random things, you would just randomly like set people's timers offset from each other. It doesn't really matter because you can literally sit wherever you want in the floor, so you don't really have much control over who goes where. But I was seeing like up in the seats, it was actually making like distinct swirls and sort of like windmill patterns as it went round. Like they were like vague-ish windmills. They weren't like super thin like lines or anything, but like sort of rather large petal. Maybe better to describe it as like flower petals like spinning around. And I was like, that's really impressive that they did that. Like, did they coordinate, like they gave each person their specific light? And I was like, there's no way we could do that. That's straight up impossible. So it must be like sort of bisection, but I was like, but what if you went in through the wrong gate? Like, can you control that? I don't know. Anyway, I was very impressed at that part. The light effects were a lot of fun. The aesthetics, yeah, it's just, I think the highlight for me was definitely like how the sort of like staging and the aesthetics worked really well for each of the different albums. They all gave off a very sort of different vibe. And I think if you're a big Taylor Swift fan, it's a very sort of monumentous occasion. I said this to a friend. It was like, you know, I would love to be, well, I mean, not necessarily a musical artist, but like, it would be cool to be able to have this sort of like celebration of your work, right? To have enough of a legacy where you can have like a big old or the equivalent of a performance, I guess, if you're not a musical artist, of everything you've done, and like have people singing along. Like I feel like that must be the greatest honor as any sort of musical artist, is when the entire crowd can sing along with the song you're singing, right? Because like she plays a 10-minute song called All Too Well, and so many people just around us knew all of the lyrics, and I was like, that's crazy. You have that much of an influence on people's lives that, hopefully in an inspirational way rather than a negative way, but people will learn this sort of like 10-minute song representative of, I don't know, people will probably move to tears. Oh, a crazy thing happened as well during Love Story. There's a lyric, it's literally a love story song, played off like a sort of modern day Romeo and Juliet, except for without the tragedy part. But there's like a lyric where towards the end she sings, "He knelt to the ground and pulled out a ring and said, 'Marry me, Juliet,'" etc, etc. No joke, someone, like a couple people behind us or something, like we were watching, and then I just heard the crowd behind us go like absolutely mentally crazy. Like people were like immediately behind and like a few couple meters backwards screaming. And I turned around and I was like, what's going on? Someone was proposing. Like a guy was proposing to his girlfriend and just like straight behind us. And it was like crazy. I was like, whoa, what's happening? And that must have been, I'd imagine she was a huge Swiftie, and probably he is a big Swiftie as well. Otherwise, that would be, I guess, a bit of a strange proposal, if anything. But that must have been an incredible, monumentous occasion. You know, if I ever become a musical artist, make sure I get a popular song which has something about proposing in there. Think of all the fans who will propose at the concert to that song. It'd be like, it's the sort of thing which is like, that warms my heart to see, you know? Two people just like sharing and cherishing that moment that they're having together, bonding over something like that. That's kind of like the legacy you want to have, right? Any artist wants to have that sort of legacy on people, right? Well, I don't know. Anyway, I didn't really talk much about the concert. It was genuinely a really fun time. Like my memory's a bit blurred about like what song was what was my favorite song. Like Blank Space is my favorite song. I did like that performance. I think my favorite performance was Willow. I think it was just really cool. To see all of us sort of like dancing with it. I actually really like the Shake It Off performance as well. Mainly because it looked like the backup dancers, they looked like they were having a blast. They just looked like they were having so much fun. That just made me sort of go like, I'm having a good time too. Anyway, yeah, it was a great experience, you know. And monumental cultural experience, I suppose, for modern day pop. So if you went to it, I hope you had a good time. If you haven't gone to it, there's probably going to be like a Blu-ray or something. I don't know. Hope you get to see that, or the movie, which I know has been released. Because I know the tour is over soon. Like, and it's her final day in London, I think tomorrow. And she's back to America or something. Anyway, I don't know. It was cool. What can I say? It was cool. It was cool as non-Swiftie, but still appreciates her songs, sort of thing. So on that note, I'm going to round this episode up here. So if you have been watching, thank you very much. It's been Animal Crossing New Horizons. I've been Dear Darling. Likes, comments, subscription, shares, greatly appreciated. Socials, Discord down below. Hope to see each other again, but for now, it's our farewell. So until next time, bye-bye for now.